A journey from Africa to Scotland to found the clan McDonald's. A journey of faith across the sea and prove our legacy that lives on.
European societies, especially enslaver societies such as Britain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, and Spain, faced a major contradiction at the center of Enlightenment culture. European intellectuals increasingly proclaimed liberty, reason and universal human rights, while European nations simultaneously expanded colonial rule and participated heavily in African enslavement. By the end of the 18th century, European artists began exposing another side of the supposed age of reason: violence, superstition, oppression and human irrationality. They sought historic romanticism, which challenged the idea that reason alone could explain human existence. During the so-called Enlightenment era, European nations repeatedly committed genocide against hundreds of civilizations across the world, including the African continent, South, Central and North America, the Indian subcontinent and Australasia. Likely a billion lives lost. The Catholic Church, headquartered in the Vatican, sanctified the European monarchs, aristocrat, the merchant class and commoners while earning great wealth from human misery. Pope Leo XIV, in his recent encyclical or public statement, asked that we pardon the Catholic Church for its past transgressions.
Welcome to Burkina Faso, the land of the upright peoples. This trip is the official program of the High Council of Burkinabés in Great Britain. The Demotivatorshow are backers and cultural partners. You are all most welcome. This trip to Burkina Faso will be good for you, good for your family, good for our futures. Meet people who will meet you with open arms and respect. The world is invited that on 17th of March to the 1st of April, the rising of the rising spirit, vast golden landscapes that touch the soul, a culture woven with warmth, and a people whose spirit shines bright. Come, feel the warmth. Come, discover the rising spirit. Burkina Faso is a holiday destination, is a safe investment opportunity. Gozaso, a great place to build your family. Visit Burkina Faso. Come, it's safe. Visit, come, it's safe. Visit Burkina Faso. Come, visit, it's safe. Come, it's safe. People with a strong culture and tradition. It's peaceful, a great place to live. It's peaceful, a great place to have your family. It's peaceful, it is safe. Breaking the chains of colonial control, we will define our identity. We will define our nations. We will define our future. Before we continue, we ask for your support. If you believe in the mission of the Demotivator Show to inform, inspire, educate and empower the African diaspora and our friends around the world, please take a moment to like this video. Every like helps more people discover these important conversations. Leave a comment below. We read your views, your experiences and your suggestions, and they often help shape our future programs. If you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel. We are building a growing community of people committed to truth, self-determination, Pan-African progress, and a positive change. Please share this video with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your social media networks, and share could be the reason someone discovers information that changes their perspective forever. And finally, press the bell icon and select all notifications so you never miss an interview, analysis, a discussion, or a special broadcast. Thank you for your continued support. Together, we inform, inspire, and build a brighter future. Welcome to the Motivator Show.
Good morning. It's the Motivator here, and this is where we translate our words into action. And where success, absolutely, where success is ours for the taking. How you feeling, people? How you feeling? I'm feeling fantastic. I'm high on life. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's been a wonderful, inspiring few days since our last episode of The Motivator Show. I have had the opportunity, the privilege to meet truly inspired human beings. Yeah. These are ordinary people, I say again, ordinary people, but engage what is perceived to be in extraordinary actions of self-sacrifice, giving, empathy, love, caring, determination, resoluteness. Yeah. People will understand if human beings collaborate, if human beings work together in common aim and common purpose, we together create a much better community, a much better town, a much better city, a much better society. And in turn, we improve the condition for all human beings, regardless of ethnicity, across the world. Praise be. That's the purpose of the Motivator Show. Lofty ambitions, yes, but achievable ambitions. Where there's a will, there's a way. We will be a contributor together with you, a contributor to improving the human condition. How about that? Yeah? Is it too much too early? I understand. But you've got it in you. You are the change makers. Every decision you make is a decision that impacts others around you. No man or woman is an island. Yeah. We are all interdependent. Yeah. Interdependent. In other words, this mutual collaboration ensures our health, our security, indeed, contributes to our collective happiness and contentment. That's the way civilizations work. Mm-hmm. Anyone who says otherwise, love to hear from you. You know, go into our message section. Love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. If there are other formulas that have secured the growth and prosperity of civilizations in the past, has individualism ever survived the test of time, where all you think about is yourself? Me, I, yeah. It's me. Has that ever survived the test of time? Mhm. Yes, think about that. Yeah, think about that. And yes, collaborating with that person you don't particularly like, I get it. But you find a means for mutual occupation of the same space. Hmm. That's the secret to life. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you'd be surprised how much knowledge that person possesses that's useful to you. And in turn, how much knowledge you possess that's useful to that person, that mutual exchange. It works. It works. It absolutely works. So this is the Motivator Show. So this is where we translate our words into action and where success, absolutely, where success is ours for the taking. And without further ado, because this show should go no longer than 2 hours, he says, you know? I want to thank many of you who have sent messages into us and given a critique and opinion on our last podcast, which of course addressed the issue of the Pope Leopold XIV's encyclical, which is essentially a public statement setting out his views on a wide range of subjects. A subject to which he apparently only incidentally touched on was the Catholic Church involvement in the enslavement of Africans and indeed tens of millions of people, human beings around the world, and profited till this day from what essentially is blood money. Mhm. Yeah. So in our last episode, with a truly inspired human being, and again, thank you for the many letters I've received thanking us in this one. Yeah, it was truly impressive. Dr. Joe Aldred. Yeah, an impressive human being, huh? Truly impressive, truly impressive. And his analysis, both in the encyclical and indeed a review of his contribution to humankind, I think, was truly impressive. And if you didn't watch it, I urge you to go to our channel face page, yeah, and you'll see, did the Pope apologize? Yep. Did he apologize? And in that episode, we did an analysis. And it's pretty clear that the Catholic Church has much to answer for. To invoke God, to invoke the divine, to invoke the purity as a basis to gain wealth, power, and influence across the globe. Look, I'm not a pope. I am not a holy man. But I possess common sense. I possess common sense for a man in that position to ask our collective pardon for more than 500-600 years of ill-gotten gains, and that's it. Oh yeah, I think Dr. Joe Aldred's analysis is quite correct. Not good enough. And there are far too many, maybe in the Catholic Church. To use Joe's terminology, Gladys. So glad. Yeah, Gladys. We get it. Gladys. Just too Gladys. Mhm. When in fact, we must ask the direct, respectful, direct questions of the Catholic Church leadership. Its involvement in the brutalization, the enslavement, in some cases, supporting mass killings, mass harm to other human beings who just happen not to be Catholic, which means the majority of humanity. I say again, which means the majority of humanity, so-called infidels, who are indeed the majority of humanity, but possess more standards, more expectation of themselves and their communities at par, or indeed clearly far higher than the purported standards of the Catholic Church. I'd say these words without any gladness, as it were. It doesn't give me pleasure. Whenever I look at these institutions, I am saddened. And at this moment, the Catholic Church, I have to express profound sadness. Profound sadness. And if the Holy See, as the adherents refer to him, wishes to speak directly to us, we're here. We will give you a honest outing here. We try to be as honest with you as possible. But please, please, please don't insult our intelligence or take advantage of our capacity for forgiveness and compassion as a weapon, a tool for manipulation. But Dr. Joe Aldrich was very clear. Faith without action. Yeah. Very wise man. In 15 minutes, we will go to our keynote dialogue, which I assure you will be a truly inspired experience, I'm assuring you. Linking the African diaspora with Scotland here in Britain. There are very clear links, and our speaker, very enthusiastic. You understand when he comes on, very enthusiastic. Okay, but we are forensic. We'll be in detail. We will look at the subject in depth, untainted by imperial propaganda. I use the term deliberately, imperial propaganda, because that is what still pervades here in Britain today. Imperial propaganda, not expressed as such. Empire is now the Commonwealth, okay, but it's still held by the monarch of Britain. Yeah, it is true. It is true. We will not do so. This will be an open and honest, transparent look at the facts. Trust me, it is worth waiting for in 14 minutes now, in 14 minutes. But I want to do one act before I move forward in recognition of Dr. Joe Aldred. And it's unique here. It is unique. Because he revealed many things, many aspects of him and his lifetime experience. One of the facts that he revealed to us, that he has been married now, as of this episode, for 52 years. Wow. And at the time, we reacted here on the Motivation Show to congratulate. Yeah, I understand for some of our viewers and our listeners, they found the kiss between Dr. Aldred and his wife, lovely wife, Novelette, to be, well, unsettling. Yes, I know. But I know very few human beings, men and women, who would not give their eye teeth, as it were, to have someone and to be in love with someone, to mutually respect someone for an entire lifetime. I know very few. Yeah. It could be that I have a certain circle, which is a good few thousand of you, of course. And in recognition of the Aldreds, okay, I put together a short poem. Okay, I like poems, and in the right mindset, I could try. Okay, I'm not a jelly. I'm not a natural storyteller, although I can tell a reasonable story, given so motivated. But And I know you would enjoy with me, want to congratulate the Aldreds, Joe and Novelet Aldred, and be married now for 52 years. Okay. Before I applaud them, I know you will agree with me. It is appropriate, therefore, for this short poem. It is a short poem. It's just my way of expressing myself. I know you would all appreciate it. Yeah. But here on the Demotivators Show, we want to encourage the unions of men and women together because they are the cornerstone of all civilizations, all successful civilizations. Where men and women working collaboratively with a mutual respect, understanding, compassion for each. That is the cornerstone of civilization. I want to congratulate the Aldred. But this short poem is for you from The Motivator Show.
52 years of love. Joe and Novelet, 52 years strong. Two hearts together, one beautiful song. Through joy and challenge, side by side, with faith, devotion, love, and pride. May every memory warm your way and love grow deeper with each new day. Congratulations on a life shared true. 52 years and still saying, I choose you.
Yeah, but Kiss is still there, huh? Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Joe. But thank you for being here and being an example person. I wish you well. Hey, another 52 years would be nice. Thank you to you both. And we look forward to speaking to you both at a future time. But continue to live well and prosper. Well done, well done. Come on. I think you would all agree. Let's be just for that independent applause. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well done, you. Well done, well done. Yes, well done. Okay. All righty. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Norbert. Yeah, I know. It had to be done. As you know, motivation, this platform, we are, of course, a campaigning platform. We bring to the light, we bring above the surface, yeah? We bring above the parapet, as it were, the issues that the other platforms, the other media outlets will mention for a day and forget about. One such issue, which has a direct impact on more than half of people with African heritage, the population, this issue of female genital mutilation. That we will continue to bring to your attention in recognition. Far too many women and girls are being mutilated in this way. It is not a practice that in any way enhances a woman, a girl's health or well-being. It doesn't uplift their spiritual integrity. It does nothing to strengthen their mental resilience. After all, you are removing a part of the most intimate of a woman's body. And we urge, particularly the traditional leaders, the one that will be on in a few minutes here, the motivated show, take this issue seriously. and to ensure that in your communities, no longer a woman or girl is subjected to this mutilation. And many of you will recognize on the Motivator show, it brings this issue to your attention, that we are still in the minority of platforms which are led by a person of African heritage. Bringing this issue, which particularly impacts women in the continent of Africa. And you will understand, therefore, why we have no chance, we have no choice but to bring it to your attention consistently. And we are serious in requesting, demanding, if you like, those in leadership, those of influence in the community, to stamp out these heinous acts against women and girls. I wanted to hear the voice, the words of that great FGM survivor. The name, of course, is Mayor Paddy, former mayor of Southwark here in London. I know you will enjoy with me is listening to her words and enjoying with her through unshackled. Here we go.
Naima Ali, FGM ambassador for Southwark in London, is the founder of Unshackled Duma. Unshackled Duma is a London-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black, Asian and world majority community and Muslim communities. The organisation focuses on promoting self-empowerment, autonomy and advocacy with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects and supports survivors and works towards eradicating the practice. Unshackled Duma can be contacted via this email address: unshackleduma followed by digit2@gmail.com. I repeat, unshackleduma followed by digit2@gmail.com.
An important issue. I understand some of you may be experiencing some difficulty hearing my voices. We're making some adjustment. And if you could, please indicate throughout the chat if you are receiving this better now. Thank you. Thank you very much for that feedback. The issue of FGM will not go away, and therefore we will continue to highlight this issue. I know it's unusual, just a platform, still stand up and think you, but we are confident, based upon feedback we've received, that there are those impacted influence who heard these messages and are now considering how best to tackle this issue. Now, let's see what we can do. There's another issue that, let's see what we could do about this. This is what we could do about this. So let's check an out sound for you, if you're sure. Now, the other issue that we need to bring to your attention is the issue that is pertinent. And that's the issue of climate change. We note, particularly amongst the platforms that involve peoples of African heritage, but this is not a discussion that we want to have. The Demotivatorshow, of course, because it's such a issue of such extreme importance, we will and we must bring it to your attention. Climate change is real. I can say it again. Climate change is real. And it does mean, therefore, that we will experience extreme weather patterns across the globe. In Britain, yesterday, we had an extreme weather alert, an official one. It doesn't happen very often. Past 4 to 5 years across the globe, we have the hottest temperatures since records began. We've made aware that in Arctic and Antarctic icebergs are melting at a record. Inevitably, that will raise water levels, sea level. In those cities, those places which are pretty low at sea level at the moment, in another 50 years, would experience extreme flooding. These are inevitable facts. It's difficult, therefore, to emphasize how important the issue is. You can take anything from these podcasts, it's raise your consciousness in stages of extreme weather conditions. Here's why. Us collectively releasing carbon dioxide and other atmospheric warming gases into the atmosphere. There are principal benefits to observers, and Britain absolutely is one of them. Japan is another. France is another. United States of America is absolutely another. Germany is another. Yeah? Belgium, a relatively small country, is another. Yeah. Russia is another. These countries that industrialized much earlier, tens of billions of tons of atmospheric warming gases into the atmosphere for the hundreds of years. Now we are paying the consequences. Islands in the Caribbean are being adversely affected by this. Okay? In the previous 2 years, islands in the Caribbean have experienced super hurricanes. Most recently, Hurricane Melissa at winds of more than 180 miles an hour, more than 100 kilometers an hour. Yes, it caused extensive damage and indeed loss of life. I need not say more on the impact of climate change. All it gives rise to hope. People come together in feminine and common purpose. We understand we work together collectively with shared vision. Resources. We can help those in greatest needs. In Britain, an organisation by the name of PNP have seen the need in this case in Jamaica. Have been putting resources to help particularly public building, in this case a school, a baby, little one, 4, 5, 6 years. Yeah. Put that school back into use to provide the materials so that school can function. And the little man can experience teaching and learning experience once again. We have for some months consistently played a short video of one of the schools. I know that representatives of the UK are currently in Jamaica sharing with them the resources that have been raised and therefore the benefits, that's the materials that children and teachers need to deliver their class. We will continue to highlight that this particular school, it doesn't stop now. There will be other schools that will have to give support. And one school at a time continue to work forward. We as humanity can support that part of humanity that needs our support. This is not charity. It is us recognizing our humanity. Therefore, without further ado, I'll play a very short video from the principal who was courageous enough to make this international appeal. We can get it to work. Okay. Oh, it's not going to work right now. It sometimes does that. I found. There we go. One more time. We can. If we can't do it, then we'll move on very quickly. Okay. It is chosen not to work right now.
Sir Louis Hines, principal of the New Building Early Childhood Institution in New Building, Nain, St. Elizabeth. We were adversely affected by the passing of Hurricane Melissa on October 28, 2025. And as such, we lost our school roof, we have lost furniture, books, and other learning materials for our young ones. I am hereby making a plea asking for any contribution that can be given to assist us in further renovating our school building so that our students can return to some semblance of normalcy. Receive some donations and we're able to cover half the roof. The other half is patched up with the old zinc that was there from before. And as such, any contribution is an investment in our young ones, the future generation. And so this is my plea, asking for any contribution that can be given in assisting us to be better able to facilitate our young students. Thank you so very much.
New building, Early Childhood School, New Buildings District, Nain, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. On behalf of PNP UK, we hope you would agree that this school needs to be rebuilt so that the children can enjoy the teaching and learning experience. Support the Hurricane Melissa Disaster Relief Fund to build back better the school. Send your donation, whatever you can afford, to PNP UK. That's at NatWest Bank, sort code 600802, account number 298612333. And in the bank reference, please quote DRF Melissa. Thank you for considering. Thank you for your donations. PNP UK.
All righty, thank you for that. I understand some of you are still experiencing some of our audio issue here, and we're just going to make a change. Make a further change to our settings.
All right, that should start to get better now. And we're going to just refresh.
All righty. I believe that should resolve the problem. There you go. That should resolve the problem. Please, in the chat, if you could indicate if the problem has been resolved. Just going to check it now, and we'll move forward. Thank you. And thank you for each and every one of you who have responded to our appeal. It has most certainly made a difference to many lives in Jamaica, particularly the young ones, the babies, who absolutely need our support. And thank you for each and every one of you who have contributed. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we are now at the time in which we're now ready to go to our keynote discussion. Okay. Now, the African diaspora, okay, has spread right across the world. And many of you, I know, will recognize this as a fact because we are in the diaspora. Many of us are here in the diaspora. Okay? But what is notable is the spread of Africans prior to the 15th century. Prior to Europeans leaving the shores of Europe and going over to the so-called New World. Yep, understood. That part of British history is generally not being heard. I'm told you've still experienced some audio making adjustment. There you are. We should start to get better. It should resolve itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm now going to move to our keynote dialogue. You will find this particular dialogue, and I urge you to stay right till the end, one that is truly inspirational. And what you will experience is a realization that vast waves of information is there in plain sight. Yeah, it's there in plain sight. Okay. I urge you to be inquisitive for our children's sake, and correct history and the telling of history by those who simply want to laud themselves up, as it were. Mhm. And I urge you, watch what follows with not only this inquisitiveness, but a desire to learn more. Because this is just the beginning of the journey. There is much more we can achieve together. But the history of Africans in this part of Britain, Scotland, is one that is not particularly well recorded, or shall we say, the records have been removed or modified, changed to suit the imperial imperatives. Yeah, you understand. But we have an opportunity now to correct the records, to enable a true telling of history to be told to us all. And I can show you each and every episode of the Motivator Show, as proven to be for myself and the team, a truly inspired, inspirational experience. Because we are constantly learning. It is truly stimulating. That's why we are indeed high on life. So here we are. Watch this and be aware that this is only the beginning.
A journey from Africa to Scotland to found the clan McDonald's. A journey of faith across the sea and prove our legacy that lives on. Watch the Motivator Show, because this is where we translate our words into action, because success is ours for the taking.
It's the Motivator here, and this is where we translate our words into action. And where success, I would say it again, where success is absolutely ours for the taking. Hey people, I've got another inspirational podcast ahead of us today. We've got a truly thrilling human being. Someone, a man who you recognize, who recognizes origins, okay? But today, we're going to focus on his origins here in Europe. Yep. The connections of African peoples to peoples here in Europe. So that will be the focus today. So don't berate him in any way when we reveal what the focus will be. Don't berate him, because this is a part of British history which we do not see in the history books. You know, we're not taught this in schools, whether you be in Britain, the Caribbean, or indeed in Africa. Generally, it is not taught. It is this generation of peoples who are conducting the research and bringing the information to the fore. And this episode of the Motivator Show will bring information to the fore. So here we have my guest, and you can see on his name tag a very long title, yeah? But I'm going to say initially, Dr. Wilton MacDonald II. Okay, I'm going to ask you, sir, please introduce yourself. I want you to explain some aspects of your name, and I note, of course, as part of your title, you have there High Chief Prince. And I would ask you to clarify what that means. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I am dialing in from Poland. I just want to set the stage. Poland, just to set the stage for your audience, for them to understand my bio and my intro. My wife is Polish, and that's what brought me here. I'm dialing into you from Poland. I'm sure there are a lot of Polish people, lovely Polish people living in Poland. and in the UK. They're Polish people living in the UK. So I am Dr. Wilton McDonald, but also High Chief Prince. I was bestowed, given the charitable work being done in Africa, High Chief and Prince from the Osun State in Nigeria. And I was also, I'm a double chief. I'm a chief in Cross River, Buki village in Nigeria. My roots, my ultimate roots, will settle in Nigeria. So I'm Nigerian, but I'm also Scottish, and I'm from the Caribbean. Lawyer in around 7 jurisdictions, UK chartered certified accountant, global CEO for ADDI, the African Diaspora Development Institute. I have my own law firm, Via Legal. I'm a practicing lawyer for more than 30 years. I probably left some things out. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own hedge funds, the Iberia Gold brand, and doing projects all over the world. And I run my own TV program, GTR, Genesis Timeline Roots, which is in its 38th week now and rated the number 1, number 2 show in the Cayman Islands.
Good for you. Good for you. You said the Caribbean. You did mention the Cayman Islands. So where in the Caribbean? Is it Cayman Islands you're from?
It's Cayman Islands would be my primary domicile. My parents are still living there. Dr. Wilton McDonald, Sarita Ramlal. Those are my parents. And I was born in the Bahamas because they were traveling. They were missionaries, but they were both born. My parents were born in Jamaica. So it covers these multiple places. Resident in Cayman, but born in Bahamas. And then my parents were born in Jamaica. I was born in Bahamas.
Thank you.
But to your point about the chief title.
Yes.
On the 2nd of December, 2025, Dr. McDonald became a Yoruba High Chief and Prince of Aagba in Osun State, Nigeria, and adoptive son of the Alaagba or King of Aagba, in Osun State, of the Fatorisa Ruling House, Oba Rufus Olayinka Ogunwole, Kujosin I. Dr. McDonald was given the following Yoruba name, Adebowale, which translates to the crown has come home. It is derived from 3 components, Ade meaning crown or royalty, Bo meaning has come, and Wale meaning home. This name symbolizes a return to one's roots or heritage, often reflecting a significant cultural or familial connection.
We extend our best wishes to Oba Rufus Olayinka Ogunwole Kujosin
I was given in being bestowed by the king, the king in Aagba. So I was bestowed the title of High Chief Prince, and I was given a name Adebowale, meaning the crown has come home. So that's just one of the titles. And then in Buki village, the regular chief, I was given a title for Ekpo, meaning spirit, and connected to one's ancestors. So
the paramount leader, the entire Buki nation is led by a supreme traditional monarch, Countly Otto Fredlin Akundu. The local government area is divided into 6 traditional clans: Iran, Osokomowan, Okosomutu, Boji, Eastern Boki, and Abu. Each clan is led by its own clan head or chief. Dr. Wilton McDonald is the Eastern Boki chief. It was given the name Ekbo, meaning spirit connected to one's ancestors.
I was given native local names in both Igbo and Yoruba because I am both on my father's side, both Igbo and Yoruba, but more Yoruba. Hence the High Chief Prince in Yoruba land.
Fascinating. Now, I suppose it's interesting. So the locals accepted your description of your origin through your genetic materials, and they acknowledged your charitable work in Nigeria, and they did that by granting you these titles. Does it come with responsibilities?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I have to be very modest. I said, well, based on means, bore wells, and a lot of mining takes place in these states, and they displace water. So by providing clean wells, I've done at least 2, and then the sponsorship of Carnival, which is really big in Cross River State, and bringing diasporans to Africa conferences, and through that bringing businesses and people also to those states for business purposes, knowledge, and they realize the platforms that I have, like GTR, Genesis Timeline Roots, we are also giving people that insight into their deeper ancestry as to Europe and being connected with Europe.
Absolutely.
That represent people looking like you and I. So this is the kind of history. But Martin, to understand my history and for your audience, they must know clearly that I was sort of teased and romanced into this journey that I have taken and researching my ancestry. When I married to a woman in Poland, 21 years, and I realized that she has no roots beyond the 1890s. And I've been living in Poland myself right now for about 12 years. So, there are very few records.
Slow down. That's an interesting one. 1890s. She had no roots in other words.
1890s. No, 1890s. No traceable relatives before the 1890s.
Wow.
And then paintings.
If I may, I might come back to that if I may, but I want to focus. I don't want to veer away from Nigeria, if I may. I don't want to go back to Nigeria. Forgive me. I will return to that because that's an interesting line of inquiry. But I want to just focus on Nigeria. Okay. So the responsibilities that comes with those titles is that you support the villages, the towns' economic vibrancy by encouraging businesses and others to invest in the area. Is that one of your primary role and responsibility to do in both the places?
Of course, I do that, and wherever I can to bring people in order to be blessed, and the sort of tourism, helping to bring people across to refer them. I again hold my role. There's no hard and fast role. There are people who have been given these titles too. I'm not the only one. But it's all means tested. I can do only so much as God sort of blesses me, and I am committed to doing, as I said, the focus on water, focus on some trade and commerce, respect to agriculture-related things. I mean, you have a milk importation that I'm trying to help and assist them because they do a lot of that in Poland, where I am, and the commerce and businesses to organize more conferences, because through the conferences, it creates a platform where the people from the 6th region can share their experiences. We even had a brilliant session in Calabar. And, there's, according to the history books, Calabar was the place where a lot of slaves, or a lot of persons of color were enslaved, were left at that port. But I'm getting a different sense of the history, meeting the museum curator and being in Calabar, where Calabar was the first capital of Nigeria. And so it never really, I never really understood how that could have been named the capital, because, it was under so much scrutiny and attack. I mean, being that this was the major port, but it's, to me, represents a port not just of outgoing, but incoming. And that is going to be what we're going to discuss about my melanated Black European roots. It's about people coming into Africa as opposed to going out. That's what people are missing from the storybooks.
We agree. So again, it will be clear about the responsibilities. I've had a number of persons come into the studio and say, well, they're now a chief, you see. And whenever I ask this question, it's always really to understand what is the obligation. Now you are a chief, what is the obligation? And in your case, you are a High Chief Prince, which is a title I don't recognize. What does that mean, High Chief Prince?
Elevated senior elevated chief. But mind you, Martin, that Nigeria remains a federative republic. So the government, I am not considered what you call it a PEP, because I remain a lawyer, but I'm not a politically exposed person, because these are genetic, tribal, native title roots that I'm, claiming, genetic roots. So them being a federative republic, the governors of each state are responsible through their locals to attend to the needs of every community, including Aagba, where I am, title holder, and Buki village. So yes, these people are taken care of by, oil. The oil industry does well, and other resources, and mining does, Nigeria hold, a lot of good, and they're able to export and distribute monies to the local population. So my
High
role
Chief Prince,
is one that
High Chief Prince, yes.
Yeah, High Chief Prince, in that, they're expecting of me annual, whenever I can visit, about annual visits. Of course, that is involved in my role. But I am in constant contact with persons that are appointed representatives in each community. And my role here is not one that's fixed and hewn in rock and stone. I am responsible to attend to the needs of that community. Remember, it's a village. It's not the whole state. I'm not prince of a state. I'm a prince of, chief of a particular village, Buki and Aagba. And so it's a smaller community, but the representatives in each community will liaise with me, and do liaise with me almost every day, as to what projects I can be involved in, and what my fund can be involved in Iberia. And so we are in touch, but their needs are being met at the federative government level, and the governor is responsible for each state. So it's not my job to feed people and to get and to break bread and say, well, some food is now ready. I know, but it's a wondrous first. And remember, they're appointing me as a higher level position that I can provide contacts and connections to that community that they wouldn't have access to. Because remember, they're not Lagos, they're not Abuja, they're not the major towns and capitals. So they may feel that, hey, we don't have the international access. That's something that I can bring to them, their local communities.
Thank you. Don't worry. Thank you, and thank you for that clarification. That does really help. And you have roots now, clear roots in the country. Well done, you, if I may say so. Well done, you. I want to know, if I may, just ask this other question before I move away from this broader context of your name and responsibilities. Okay, I want to understand a bit more about yourself. Can you share with us a person or event that has heavily influenced the man you are today? A person or event that may well have shaped you as you are today?
Well, that has to be my father. I have his name. So he is 81 years old. And if it wasn't my dad, it would be the other McDonald who I'm related to, which is DaCosta McDonald, a living legend, who's 109 years old. 109. But my father, who is 81, has been a lifelong inspiration, a fount of knowledge. And like a lot of persons in the Caribbean, when I did ask and press for my roots, it was a hard task, an arduous task to get him to open up. But when he finally opens up, you hear and see the stories pouring out about singing Jacobite songs, about just, how things were in his time and his experience with his father, connecting with Europe in that sense, in that they lived the lives of Jacobites, of Hebrews, and they had this badge of Seventh-day Adventism. They were always Seventh-day Adventists, but following the Shabbat, and that was part of their whole life, and lifestyle. So that is something that remains with me and resonates. And my father definitely the most important figure to be who I am today.
Good. You mentioned Jacobite. It's a term that we don't often hear in 21st century. Who were the Jacobites? Just for benefit of the audience here.
Yeah. Well, Well, as you know, there was, fighting amongst the English and the Scots. As you know, about call it 400, years ago, and that it was centered around religion. Now, my learning in 13 universities, and we could come to that later, in the 13 universities, take me a while to flesh out that there was, let's call it the fall of Rome, as we know it, and from the papacy I would say, that would be closer to 500 years ago. I know some people looking at 5th century, but for me, it was, call it, if you want to say 15th century, but there was a change. And so that change was resisted by Britain. We're talking to a British audience. Henry VIII, the Tudors, he resisted, and they made him stay in the snow. And, he formed the Church of England. So from then, we have the reformers. And the English, of course, had their will. So you have the Catholic movement, you had the Church of England with breaking away from Catholicism, and then the Jacobites were clinging to their Hebrew traditions. And for me, being a Seventh-day Adventist, 5th generation, I follow that path, the dietary laws, the Hebrew. So the Jacobites, who derived, they say, from John, but is Jacob, that's clear. There are people who were called out and to follow the traditions of being Scottish Hebrews and fighting against the grain because they were looking at Church of England imposing their will. And Henry VIII, which for me was a melanated man, a brother, and fighting against the Catholic Church, which they want to impose their will. And the popes back then, 500 years ago, would be melanated brothers too. There would be melanated brothers. I want to make that clear to the audience.
No, you're quite right. And in joining the Jacobite would, of course, the McDonalds you've mentioned, the McCamerons, if I recall, the McStewarts and McGregor, according to my history log. It's my study of history, you see.
But see, Martin, it's the version of history is so convoluted and it loses the potency. People need to now, and this is it. I'm not here to indoctrinate anyone. I am not preaching. For me, I remain a lawyer and a scholar and a historian. It's to ask people to search for themselves. And the information is there. You just have to look a little harder than the average person.
You're quite right. And we want to make it easy for them here on the Motivators Show. And I'll place references on screen to help those who are so minded to make further inquiries. I think that's right. So your name, if we can recite your name, you are Dr. Indeed, Wilton MacDonald. Now, in this case, it's C. Donald, as opposed to, forgive my very Western and foodie type descriptor, not MAC Donald. Okay, now, is there a different group of McDonald's? What's the difference? What's the MC and the MAC? Okay. What's the difference? Yeah.
Now, I am a member of the various Clan Donald groups in America, in Europe, all over the world. And MAC, MacDonald, is the Scottish variety. That's the version that's associated with Scotland. Now, once the movements, because you had people leaving Scotland and moving and migrating through the Ulster Scots to Ireland and into the diaspora, the world, they dropped the A and then they called themselves McDonald. So McDonald, as the burger and the fast food places associated with Ireland and the Ulster Scots. But in the case of my family, my dad and his dad always wrote their names as Big M, small c, with 2 lines underneath to denote a missing letter, that is A, and C and D, big D, ONALD. So it's really supposed to be Scottish MacDonald. That is the way that our name, but in Jamaica, when records are kept and things get truncated and revised, his father always wrote his name in that manner. M, small c, 2 lines underneath, big D, Donald. And this means, for those who may not know, Muck means son. And apparently in the, if it's real or not, folklore, there was a great king of Somerled in the 12th century, and he had a grandson called Donald. And so they called the sons of Donald Mac. And in the case of McFarlane, it would be son of Farlan, and so on. So Mac means son of. But
okay, I'm not going to digress too far, but I wanted to ask this question because I know that the Maasai in Kenya, the men wear what I've always described, and forgive my ignorance of general people. I'm not an academic. He's the academic. I'm not. I'm just a study. They wear what appear to be kilts. Is there a connection between the Maasai and the kilts that we find in Scotland?
Martin, I am reviewing this constantly. I have people that's researching for me right now, and in my GTR program, all of the persons, and in Africa itself as a continent, and we know there were different names given to Africa, but Africa has deep Hebrew roots. Even now we see white Christianity and with the Islam faith. We have that practice in Africa, but Africa is deeply Hebrew. Now the Maasai, I've been to Kenya many times, and I've seen their clothing draped as robes around and taken almost as kilts or skirts, but they are using the tartan, mostly red, and some blue and green colors in the tartan colors that's emblematic of the Scottish clans. And that struck me. That's one of the things that just gave me a slap. It woke me up. And I was been waking up, been romanced into this. I didn't just plop into it. I'm a busy lawyer working all over the world, but I was drawn to this, and I went my first trip in 2008 to Kenya, and I saw this, and I'm like, but I've seen this before. These people are not really Scottish, but they're wearing tartan colors in Kenya. And they've been doing so for thousands of years.
Thousands of years, yes.
They're in the wild, like they're in the rural basic state. And they said, well, yes, this is our tradition. This is our clothing. So we have to reassess our history in a really serious way. And there's so many things I could say about it, but I'm telling you, that senior administrator, genealogist, his name was James, Dr. James, he says, and it's James McDonald at that, the pathway of the white McDonald's to Summerled is iffy, and I will never hang my hat on iffy. That's not a nail I want to hang my hat on.
Fascinating. I've read similar articles myself, and term iffy is not particularly academic in terms of its use.
And I have it in writing. I have it in writing from Dr. James McDonald. Iffy.
Okay. It's not what I can pursue adequately right now, because clearly, if the McDonald's are beginning to realize that the path as was the propaganda, and it's really this reform in around 15th, 16th century, we had this great awakening, as it were, where many of our African icons became pale skin, as it were. You see in their churches, suddenly you had these blue-eyed and blonde hair, all part of that great awakening, as it were. And I'll put on the screens examples for the audience later on. It's during that period in which much of this confusion is embedded. I'm sure.
European societies, especially enslaver societies such as Britain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, and Spain, faced a major contradiction at the center of Enlightenment culture. European intellectuals increasingly proclaimed liberty, reason and universal human rights, while European nations simultaneously expanded colonial rule and participated heavily in African enslavement. By the end of the 18th century, European artists began exposing another side of the supposed age of reason: violence, superstition, oppression and human irrationality. They sought historic romanticism, which challenged the idea that reason alone could explain human existence. During the so-called Enlightenment era, European nations repeatedly committed crimes against humanity, committed genocide against hundreds of civilizations across the world, including the African continent, South, Central and North America, the Indian subcontinent and Australasia, likely 1 billion lives lost. The Catholic Church, headquartered in the Vatican, sanctified the European monarchs, aristocrat, the merchant class and commoners while earning great wealth from human misery. Pope Leo XIV, in his recent encyclical or public statement, asked the we, pardoned the Catholic Church for its past transgressions.
Is embedded. I'm sure it's embedded. But I want to pursue you further, okay? Because I want to better understand your work, particularly in respect of genetics, and why your McDonald heritage and plotting it and understanding it is important to you. Why is it important to you, first of all? Let's get that out of the way, first of all. Why is it important?
I think a bit unique in this sense, and I will tell you why and be brief about it. I was stateless for 26 years. When someone is stateless for 26 years, it's the kind of scars that you carry, and I'm 51 years old. So I lived in the Cayman Islands, yet I lived also in bits in Jamaica and the Bahamas, but because of immigration laws and restrictions, to the good old English draftsman, I was not allowed to take citizenship because I then had no surmountable amount of residence. I fell in the crack of a crack. So I was stateless for 26 years. Even when going to law school, I had a passport, but no citizenship rights, and only a Jamaican passport at that. So I required every single visa, every single access to enter countries. It was getting scholarships and stuff is just way out the window. It didn't happen, no matter how good my grades were. And I believe you me, I went off between 14 and 15. I was in university studying. So it's a long process, and that has been the deep yearning where I asked myself so many times, who am I? The deep existential questions, that yearning, who am I? Where am I? What am I? And that's what evoked, because some people who have a silver gold spoon path to life, like David say a Trump or just someone, okay, but someone who has that ability to just transcend and skate because of their name and their privilege. I mean, it just affects you, because then you could focus on partying and developing and all of the ways. But for me, it was always searching. And you look at Abraham Maslow, the basic needs being met, and transcendence was something that was just not in my reach, because I was still searching for myself and who it is to be a McDonald, who is to be a colored person, to be a Caribbean person, but without any citizenship rights for 26 years. That's an awful burden to carry.
Agreed. Thank you. And that's very clear. So that motivation is to look at your roots. So you've looked at your direct African roots, and you've plotted your roots to, in this case, Nigeria, both in Yoruba land, Yoruba kingdom, and of course within the Igbo land. That's understood, okay? And today we'll focus on your heritage as a McDonald, with a small c, absent of an A. I'm going to get that right, okay? And I appreciate you for that clarification. Honestly, we appreciate you. So I've got a substantive question to ask, but what are the highlights from your research so far that you wish to share with us today? What highlights can you share with us today?
Well, the working hypothesis for the last 6 years was, what is truly the default and I could phrase it as a null hypothesis, one to reject. So if I put it as a null hypothesis in research and land, people would understand what I'm talking about. So the default male haplogroup of Europe, and by extension the United Kingdom, would be a R, and R is just a prototypical white male. That's what a haplogroup R is. Based on one's migration from Africa, we all believe in the out of Africa story.
Yes.
So based on that migration, the type R is the typical white male. This is the haplogroup, the default male haplogroup of Europe.
Haplogroup R1b, origins. The Sahel-Chad Basin, Central Africa, 60% 95% specifically among the Hausa and Chadic-speaking ethnic groups of Cameroon. They carry R1bV88, an ancient back migration branch that split off and crossed the Sahara thousands of years ago.
Prior to the 1800s. So this is the way it's framed. And so I have to now challenge it and seek to reject or accept this null hypothesis. What I've found, it leads me to want to reject the hypothesis, and not because I am different, being an E. An E is another haplo, it's sub-Saharan. E, it's the first haplo. And
Haplogroup E, specifically EM96, is overwhelmingly denoted by African populations, as it represents the single most dominant paternal lineage across the African continent.
I know it's confusing because you said, what about the letter A, the flow genetic tree? And I'm not a geneticist, but I'm a quick study, but the tree is supposed to be alphabetic. Actually, A comes out of E. So when you survey 10 men in a room, about almost 5 would be E's, believe it or not. And if I tell you who was an E, I think some of you would jump out of your chair. David Attenborough of the BBC, he's an E. Phenotype white, but as black as can be on the inside, so he's an E. Vladimir Putin of Russia is an E.
Can I just ask you to
the
pause
Emperor
there?
Napoleon.
Can I ask you to pause just for a moment? Because I want the audience to absorb that information you just shared. So, taking David Attenborough, who's a very well-known personality here and highly respected, I grew up with his narration. Okay, so we recognise him. So, what you're stating as because of your
that's public knowledge.
Background,
that's public knowledge.
It's okay. It's okay. I didn't want to say it in terms that the audience will understand. It's okay. Don't worry. What you're saying is that a person can have on the surface a skin tone that we would say is pale, white if you like, okay? But all the genetic markers to mark him as being what we would term a black African. Yep.
Black African. As black as you can be, even older than A. Even older than A.
Go. And I want people to absorb that, you see, because remember, we are essentially one human family, you see. The idea of race is there are no scientific basis for race. Ethnicity, absolutely, but not race. Yeah? So it's important. So you can have a pale skin, but have all the genetic markers for a black African from Kenya, for example. Yep. And that displays the diversity and the uniqueness of the genes and how they express themselves. So these outward characteristics are simply outward characteristics, but they have a relationship with the broader genetic material. But the broader genetic material is what drives the species forward. These outward features are outward features. So it's important. So you could be directly related to someone in Kenya, even though you've lived and your family lived for the past 500 years or 1,000 years in Scotland, but be closely related to someone in Kenya. Powerful, isn't it? And this goes to show how close the human family is. And this is why, of course, you and I can meet a woman, in your case in Poland, or in my case, potentially, he says, in China, and we can have babies together. We can have children together because we remain a single human family. Powerful, powerful. Continue, Doctor. Please continue.
So I want to give the audience a sense. If you have 10 men, and you know what's the problem is that a lot of the black men, the E's, the real E's on the inside, so not just what you see on the outside, but inside, they would not have the money to test. So you have to factor that in. When it comes to testing, the R group, which is the white male, they are a lot of them. I would say they're the second group, but proportionality, they have more means and money to spend the $500 or $1,000 to do the test. And I have had to sponsor a lot of the E's. So who is an E? All the kings of Egypt and pharaohs, including Tutankhamun, who was marked an R, but that's a complete fraud. That's discredited. So all the kings of Egypt, Mandela, who, as you can say, Mandiba, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, he was an E. President Woodrow Wilson of the USA, he was an E. The Wright brothers, who gave us the airplane, they're E's. We have other figure, Vladimir Putin of Russia is an E. David Attenborough, E. Steven Spielberg from the movies, he's an E. And so the Rothschild family, most of the members, the Conti family in Europe, in Italy that governed, a lot of the powerful family, the Berkeley, the St. Clairs, and not just the Sinclairs, but the old ones, the STCLAIRS, the St. Clairs are E's. So E is the bedrock. In fact, E is the oldest, and it is termed African. And I have to go to New Zealand, Australia, and all these tribal chiefs. A lot of them would be either E or CD, which is the subsequent set from the E. From E branches out A, then B, C, D. And that's it when it comes to melanated black original mankind. That's on one end. The other end would be the R, which they're the ones that are, they call it white, but their history of the white is limited indeed. And I don't mean to cast down any aspersions or anything, but really it is a limited history that it's not older, believe it or not, than 250 years. It's not older than that. The prototypical white male, as to how he arrived on the scene, would not be having any history. And that's the thing. I see it every time in the thousands of trees. My personal family tree is 1.2 million in size. And I've seen so many trees and family trying to trace their roots to Europe from America and Canada. And I sit down and I smile and laugh because, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make sport, but they can't do it because they don't match. And that's the same problem the McDonald's fall in. The white McDonald's, where that senior advisor, genealogist said, iffy path to Summerlin. You're chasing a ghost. You're chasing a ghost.
And it is interesting, of course. It's only a few centuries ago, places, we think of the Moors, for example, and their incursion into so-called Western Europe, part of Asia. And of course, Spain, of course, Portugal. If you had seen pictures of people in that land prior to them going out to other places, they are of very much African in appearance, and indeed parts of France as you go on, and indeed here in Britain, you know, they proclaimed so-called, I think the term is cheddar. It's after cheese anyway.
Cheddar man is 10,000 BC. Cheddar man is 10,000 BC. Now, but Martin, it comes further home.
Gosh.
Because I would like for you to interview, and I reached out to her, Dr. Marie Charles. She's written 26 books on history. We're talking about history of whole of Europe, not just UK, but of France, of Germany, of Netherlands, of Belgium, of Austria. She's gone through most, even a place like Estonia, which I smile because Estonia is a place I visited. I saw a lot of black relics, and their population today is 1.4 million. Yet they claim to have a history going back to BC 10,000 with whites. But the single demographic that I have found in my research, which is the most compelling and damning at the same time, damning for whites. And I'm not anti-white. I'm 10% white, married to a white woman for 21 years.
Indeed.
It's about the population of that Estonia could not really be practical. How can you have 10,000 BC and then 1.4 million Estonians today? And you don't have a lot of migration. I have not met a lot of migrants who are Estonians. But the single demographic, which is damning and compelling, is the 7 to 8% non-Hispanic whites. And I think that your audience needs to process. It's not just white people, but non-Hispanic whites. If you have 7 to 8% non-Hispanic whites, you can never, ever get white people in the Middle Ages. So when you mention the Moors, that to me is a misnomer, because you don't go to Brazil and say, hey, I want some Brazil nuts. You're in Brazil, they're just called nuts.
Quite right.
So you don't go to the Moors. The Moors did not save anybody in Europe because they came to people who are melanated. And again, when I saw these things in Poland with my wife, not having ancestors before the 1890s, I saw paintings referred to as the Moorish quadrille with all these melanated kings of Sweden, of Poland, of Germany, hidden. And I got copies of them, and I purchased a copy. And that to me woke me up, because the king of Poland, Augustus the Strong, is was a black man. Absolutely. But we know of him. Yes. And when you look on the wiki page, you'll see a man who's white, but in blue and red. The colors of the black man who is in that painting, who also wore the colors red and blue. So you have a little bit of truth and a lot of error. That is the typical way they sell these things.
The artwork referred to as the Moors quadrille painting is an 18th century European gouache and watercolor painting titled August the Strong and Courtiers as Contestants in the Moors quadrille in Warsaw. Painted by the German court artist Johann Samuel Mock, or his father Johann Mock. It depicts a real historical event that occurred on the 5th of February 1701, often cited as 1706 in online discussions.
Absolutely. As I said, that's why I refer to the sort of 15th, 16th century, the great so-called Enlightenment, where they whitewashed so many of the iconic paintings. I purchased a publication on Russian icons, of historical paintings over the past 2,000 years. And essentially, this book was contained a whole series of black nobles, kings, indeed Black Jesus, Madonna, and a host of apostolic figures were all black. The Russians kept it. And of course, you go to the Russian cathedrals, you'll see the Madonna. You'll see her in an African refinery, as it were. This is an African woman. So those Orthodox churches which retain the original images, as opposed to those who pursued along the lines of the Greco-Roman path, which sought to make all these icons pale skin. Go ahead.
But to your point, Martin, and you're right. I've purchased a copy too of Russian icons, and Putin was great. And actually, Vladimir Putin is a haplo-E, so he's a black man genetically, not phenotype, but genetically. When you look at we go all through parts of Africa. I've been through many countries, and including Nigeria. When you go into most churches, you look on the walls, you see the white Jesus. But the irony is, when you go into the oldest churches across the Middle East, and especially Europe, be it Poland, Latvia, wherever, the oldest churches in Europe adore and worship the Black Madonna and Black Jesus. And I was struck. And on some parts of the wall, you see what it makes out to be collages of white-looking wild people. And again, I don't want to associate wild with whiteness, but I've seen it with my own eyes on the walls as tapestries. And I'm like, well, I refer to some tapestry as a wild man, but they worship the black, melanated, white, Black Jesus in those predominantly white countries of Europe. But in Africa, they hold up the white Jesus on the wall, which is such a burning irony.
Amazing.
I just don't. I don't understand it.
Can I just add this to you? And you mentioned Doctor. In fact, let me mention Dr. Marie Charles, but Dr. John Johnson. Okay, on the black rulers of Scotland, the British Isles. Okay, now Dr. Johnson's commissioned an artist to sketch British and Scottish kings from the times, and this is interesting. It is interesting because it does appear that the early kings and monarchs of Britain appear not to be pale-skinned. Would I be right in
Martin,
saying this?
I have something. Okay. I have something for you, because I know. And Dr. John Johnson died, and he was not even 60 yet. He died mysteriously, but he wrote a few books on Egypt, and then he wrote this book, The Black Rulers, the Negro rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. I spoke to his son, because the man is now deceased. But I spoke to his son, and I said, how come your father commissioned this artist to sketch out these kings, these black melanated kings, including the Stuarts, which means Schwartz in German language, Stuarts, and they were black. So how come he got this? And it's from paintings that apparently are in either Holyrood House in Scotland or other sources. Remember, this was a man who was a reverend, but he was a military man. I said, and the son was mum. He said, I am not able to go into this right now. Whether it could have been nice hacking or whatever. Again, I'm not trying to, do something to defame the dead, but his son was tight-lipped and very careful in how he responded to me as to how his dad got access to these paintings, because I came across my Morse quadrille, the 4 pings of Europe. Now, how did I get it? Someone tipped me off. Someone said, go contact this university because this museum has a piece that's not being shown. And I contacted them, and they confirmed it was correct. Now, in stark contrast is this Bayeux tapestry that's running around UK right now. I said it's the world's biggest giant toilet paper, because we don't know who made it and how it was chain of custody handed down. And it's all showing Britons and Normans that are white. And if you was presupposed that that was accurate, 300 million people alive, not the 8 billion, but 300 million, and everybody is white. These are people who literally spread their seed everywhere. Yeah. How can you get back to the 7% non-Hispanic whites? You have to be a magician. You're going to have to be a world's greatest magician to have all those whites in their glory in 1066 on that Bayeux, and then 7% whites, non-Hispanic whites today. That to me is the most compelling thing of all, that is just mostly hocus pocus made up. Even the year we're living in, some people say it's 300 years off. I say it's about 1,000 years that's off the marker in terms of where we are living in now.
I suspect you're right. Researchers support your assertion. In tracing your McDonald route, I'm obliged to ask this question because if you mentioned Jamaica. I'm very familiar with Jamaica. Okay. Did your ancestors, the McDonald ancestors, arrive in Jamaica as, I have to ask the word, as workers, specialist workers, or did they arrive in Jamaica as enslavers?
Okay, I'll give you a full, complete answer. My mother was full Indian, a Ramlal and Sabran. Her great-grandparents came from India, from Madras, Chennai, as indentured workers. So that's clear on her side. As far as my father's side, we have James McDonald, born in Scotland in 1788, who arrived into Jamaica around the 1830s. And he worked as a wharfinger and married a local landowner who
What's a wharfinger? What's a wharfinger?
A wharfinger, I have to look it up too. So the old title, but it's someone who is of importance, who is connected with the docks, but someone who would manage and actually own the docks. It's not someone taking baskets and trays up and say, okay, here's some fish, fresh fish today, and working it. No, I thought first impression that was it, but the wharfinger is a person of certain reputation that owns and manages docks. And in this case, it was Green Island on the north side of Jamaica, Green Island, Hanover Parish in Jamaica. Okay. So they have access to the water. That was his job. And he married a person who had enslaved a few, maybe 6 or so persons who were enslaved. She was described as a mixed race woman, Jane Wells, and she obtained land after the Maroon Uprising. She obtained land, and she was a landowner, a wealthy landowner. So he married well into the Wells family.
I understand. Again, I'm obliged to ask you this question because I will have members of the heirs of slavery here on the Demotivatorshow in a few episodes' time. In your family, were you paid or being paid up until 2016, 17, I think it was, by the Bank of England, compensating your family for the loss of our ancestors, Africans, who were previously enslaved? Or
yes,
do you have any knowledge of that?
The knowledge, because I attended UCL, University College London. They have a register that records those persons who owned, unfortunately, the enslaved, the enslaved, and they owned persons, and including the Wells, Jane Wells herself. Yes. James McDonald was not an owner. He was just a house husband, wharfinger. He did not own, but she was the owner of the enslaved, and she received compensation. There are records that tie into the UCL, University College London records, that she got some measure of payments. But then this is way, way before my time. I mean, she passed away in like the mid 1800s.
I was obliged to ask that question because it was really to put you completely in context. In my earlier question is, can you give us highlights in the research you've conducted into the McDonald with a small c? Okay. And interesting your responses. Okay. As you go along and continue the research, what do you hope to achieve by completing your research? What do you hope to achieve?
Okay, and Martin, thanks. I have found where my cousins, there are more than 200, call it melanated black, and even some that are white in appearance, but they have the E haplogroup. So I've been searching for the E's, and I test other haplos as well. In my own E's, the closest relatives include a man called DaCosta McDonald. He's still alive. He is living in Grenada, and partly in Trinidad, Grenada. And I met him. I spent time with him. He's 109 now, and I pray for him. That's a long life to live. But his grandfather was John William. So his father being William and his grandfather being John William, there's no history of any persons enslaved at all in the family. Just like in my own personal family, there's absolutely no records apart from Jane Wells owning a few enslaved, but there's none of us where the paternal men were enslaved. As far as DaCosta, that's one person, and he has the E's, and my closest cousin. You have others with Hebrew-sounding names like Hezron. He's based in America. There's Oret McDonald. He's a musician in Jamaica. We have Mark Joseph McDonald and his father, who's also Joseph McDonald, living in New Jersey. We have Cuba. Some of my Cuban cousins, where you have Orlando based in Cuba, and I had to go through great lengths to get the DNA from Cuba. It's difficult crossing borders in some countries. And in Dominican Republic as well, we have other relatives. I have gone through several countries, in Canada, in the US, and I've seen the link where James made a path over from Scotland over to Cape Breton and in Canada and down the way through Americas and into Jamaica. So I have mapped sort of that out, and cousins along the way, like Herbert Charles. Now, he's a white-looking guy, and his persons who are his grandsons, I speak to them today, called Daryl, and they're E's. But when you look at them, you would never know, but they're actually related to me, and they are E's. Not until I put my results in a private lab. When I tested first, because a lot of the labs, people don't know, are controlled again by the Church of Latter-day Saints. And then they, of course, would have some Jewish owners. But that's not surprise. It's public record. When I went into my private labs, I found 20 times, 50 times, 100 times the potency of results. I finally, it's like I was in jail. I was in DNA jail. And the minute that I went private at greater cost, we all matched up. But here's the kicker. When I tested the R's, the prototypical whites in the private labs, their results didn't move. Their results did not move. They had 5 matches out there publicly, commercially. They would have 5 matches in the private labs. When we had our 5 matches out there, after the private testing, we would have 50, 100, 300 matches. It's like the lights went off. Yeah, the lights went off. And I've seen that multitude of times, or I've seen in my own eyes. So there's obviously some suppression, of information. I even compile a file, a set of database, I call them the orphan files. This is the thing about it. I have been doing the testing on the Y chromosome, which will take you down the path of thousands of years of genealogy. But a lot of us do the test and we don't realize that we're doing the surface, the autosomal testing. For your audience, that's just a small percent of your genome. That's what they sell, like MyHeritage, Ancestry.com, 23andMe. Those are the commercial tests. Now, when you take them, you think, oh, wow, I'm 50% Scottish, I'm 30% German, oh, wow. But that's only 2% of your whole genome, of your genetic material. But they try to determine your ethnicity based on that. When I have done those tests myself, and my parents have also tested, those companies, I established a database I call the orphan files. I know I'm not an orphan. I know my parents, my mom being Indian, my dad being 20% white, whatever that is, because again, I thought it was European, but whatever that is, and 80% black, which is real Scottish, African, Yoruba, and Hebrew. So that's my dad, 80%. But when I look at those files, I have gotten more than 800 cases out of the thousands of matches where I'm an orphan. I'm matching someone and neither parent is a match at a significant level. And I have attempted to pause. I am matching someone at 20, 30 centimorgans. That's how the DNA is measured, centimorgans. It may sound like cm, centimeters, but centimorgans. And that means neither parent is a match. And it's the same DNA company that has acknowledged that that is my parent. When you have a parental match, you're matching them about 3,000 centimorgans. If you're a grandparent, it's half of that, which would be about 1,700 centimorgans. If you're testing yourself, it's around 7,000. The value is 7,000. Right. So someone who is at 20 and 30 and 40, it's a good fourth cousin. It's still a strong enough match. And when I am matching that person, and even my sister will match as well, but neither parent is a match. Houston, we have a problem. Shouldn't you at least one parent match? Because my parents are not related at all. There's no familial relationship. It's a deliberate erasure, just as how in my studies and travel of 130 countries, I've noticed that they've taken the noses and faces off thousands of images and rolled
African men and women on statues found across Africa, the Middle East, Asia, the Americas, Australasia. Men and women proud of their culture and heritage. European aristocrats' response was to remove their noses. Time, history will note their desecration.
Thousands of images and Roman villages in many countries, Tunisia, Algeria, even in Poland here.
My nose has been cut off those statues.
They cut off the nose because they don't hide the obvious melanated flesh. Even when I was at Cambridge University, and I saw some images of a white guy, but the face didn't match the wall. And then I saw other statues in Cambridge, and I saw, well, the faces are there, but the noses are off, but then the face matches the wall. I'm like, because you know how the building is aged. People have common sense. They know when something has been touched. And I'm looking at it like saying, oh, wow, that's a nice image, but that man looks a white guy, but then it doesn't match the building. You see, I'm just giving you an instance. With a DNA, there's corruption. Obviously, how can I have 800 cases where I'm matching, and they increase the limits all the time? That means they don't want your cousins to call, like they don't want people to, the minimum.
See how close we are. How close
we are. So I remember people lamenting. I was in DNA work for 6 years. I remember that people are saying, but I had 20 cousins in America, and now I just have one. People have been saying the same thing. So the DNA companies, they raise the bar. So when you do finally have a match, it's a doggone good match, because they've been raising the bar over years. So fine, they weed out the black cousins, so the people doing genealogy can be left alone and don't have to be contacted by their black cousins. But I'm a cousin, I'm matching with somebody, some lady in Idaho, some lady in Arkansas or something, Arkansas, but then neither parent is a match. And my parents genetically are not related. My mom's from Clarendon, my dad is from Westmoreland, and they are totally, my dad has not 1% of Indian genes in his. So this is a problem for me. It's a serious problem. Neither parent has a genetic problem, disease, because that can affect the results. We don't have any genetic
so Dr. Wootton, and I want to draw us to a close now, because it's been an interesting journey with yourself and your journey. We understand the what has motivated you to do, for you were stateless for a while and you needed to re-establish your roots. That's understood. This link with the your name at McDonald's, okay, is fascinating to see you and for you to speak about this. Does it give you pride, the history of the McDonald's? Does it give you pride?
Pride and sadness, because even before I was sort of given the honors, I already was associated with the clans and in Scotland, because my ancestors left Nigeria around 1,500 years ago and settled as Hebrew Jacobites in Scotland. So it gives me great sadness when my dad tells me, Bonnie Bray, a Bray. It's a song, old song about it's this old song, but they were singing and humming older songs in when I go back to Scotland and talking about the verses, and he's singing that, and his father was singing that. It is just very sad that I'm missing that chunk of history, and that people are claiming that history for themselves, and that's not accurate, and it cannot stand. So when you asked me the question earlier, what I want to get out of it, because I want to address that question, I want us to regain our knowledge, our history as melanated Black people. We need to regain our pride, and I want to address the youth, because we need to go back to our roots. We need to reconnect, and this empowerment and the economic rights. The whole reparations talk, because we've been singing it for a long time. It's time due. We're the landowners. And
get no argument here. The contradictions are very clear. This has been an interesting canter, and I know your work is clearly ongoing. Okay, and I'd love to have you back once you completed your current round of research, so you can share with us your result. Okay, but clearly many have heard you. Some of what you describe for some might appear to be incredulous. You can be E phenotype, but yet have a pale skin. Yeah, that seems almost incredulous. Okay, and I get that. I get that for many people. I get that. Okay, but what would you say to someone who's listened to you and are attentive? Okay, but want to affirm your words, what would you say that they should do? What are the steps you follow? What are the steps you recommend that they should take to affirm the evidence you presented here on the Demotivatorshow today? What steps should they follow?
I think they can start out by taking a clean piece of paper and trying to write down their family tree. We can all do it. And I started with 5 names. I started my 1.2 million. I started with 5 names. And during this search and journey, and the Bible says that you need to prove the scripture for yourselves. You see, faith without action and works is dead. Faith without works is dead. So you need to prove. Absolutely. The best thing is I am just one person, but your likes of Dr. John Johnson, who has passed away. He got access to paintings, and maybe that had an impact on his life, because he certainly died before even reaching the age of 60. And his son could not even say how he gained access. And that's a secret. And, he got access in some way. But I was able to get a painting like the Moorish Quadrille that shows all these melanated kings of Europe in 1706. But people have to prove for themselves and research themselves. And the likes of Dr. Marie Charles, she's published 26 books. They could read and look at the physical evidence that she has prepared and printed and made available to people. So it starts with just that clean sheet of paper. Go ahead and map out your family tree. And while you're at it, maybe your neighbors. Because when I looked at my wife's and I realized, hey, I've come to Poland. I'm in the land of whiteness. Oh, no, you have no history. Where's your history, lady? You're my wife of 21 years and I can't find any history. And your friend and your neighbor and your cousin and no history. And then the kings of Poland showed up as black people with the faces of princes taken off. Yes. I visited the homes. Some of the people in that painting, I visited their homes. And when I looked at the chapel and I saw the faces dug out, I'm like, I've seen this before. Wow. How come they have no faces? And I took photographs and I put it on social media. I took the photos with my own camera and I'm shaking myself. And I asked the tour guide, I say, lady, what happened to the faces? Oh, I don't know. Maybe in time they drop off, but the rest of the statue is intact. His hands are there. His hair is there. His ears are there. What happened to the face? What happened to the nose?
They did want to show the nose. See the nose. They did want to show the nose. There you are. You see that nose?
It's really that. It's a telltale sign. It's such a telltale.
But Dr. Wootton, this is inspirational. Okay, the information is there in plain sight. In other words, information is there in plain sight. What would you say to a guardian or mother, father of a child who is just been born? How should they prepare them to raise their consciousness as a child? To use your term, melanated, I might say African, but it doesn't matter. What would you say to them? How should they prepare them? What materials should they provide to their sons and daughters, their godsons, goddaughters, their nieces and nephews? What materials should they prepare for them?
It saddens me to say, but they will have to use a whole lot of AI, like what I've been doing in my program in GTR, Genesis Timeline Roots. You have to do it because the materials today, you could open a book to them and read a story to them. But everything you will read would be influenced by the whitewash narrative. Everything you read, if you open a film and watch a film, you'll see the Romans. Even there is a recent one called The Odyssey. It just came out just a few weeks ago. And look at Matt Damon. Matt Damon. I mean, honestly, he's the hero. He's a protagonist. I can't believe it. It's to me. You have to guard your kids, and this is what I do with everything they watch. I'd say, I know you have this scene, and you have to be there always with your kids to just guide them. Let's say you have to search for yourself, Susie or Bobby. It's not what it appears, and you should be confident and embrace yourself, especially if you're a melanated skin, that you commune with the environment. We are solar beings. We interact with the environment in such a good way. We need to be proud of who we are, what we are, and don't take it from someone else to define us. Do not allow them to define us, because that's when you lose the battle.
No, say that again, Dr. Walter. Say that again, please. Say that again.
Do not allow anyone outside your circle, or even sometimes inside your circle, to define you. You have to figure out truth for yourself. Do not allow, because when you allow them, you lose the battle. Not the war. I mean, the war is still fighting as we are living every day, but you lose the battle if you allow someone to define you. It's the who you are, what you are, where you are, even when you are. Because the year that we are staying in, again, that's then on another topic for another day.
Another topic,
but
yes.
It is not quite the year that we think we're living in because of the Gregorian change. Pope the first was also Pope Gregory the 14th. So that is further research to kind of flesh out.
Absolutely right. Yeah. If you're in Ethiopia, of course, they have their own
calendar. Their own calendar.
Absolutely right. So this is a bit of brilliant canter through with yourself. Okay, we definitely got to have you back again once you completed the next stage of your research. We need further investigations, and it is stimulating, intellectually stimulating to listen to you. There are a number of lines of inquiries for our audience to make to raise their consciousness, their awareness levels, without a shadow of a doubt. And that what we are doing by virtue of raising these issues with the audience is creating the wave of change. And we are all change makers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well said. Absolutely. I want to thank you. Thank you for being a truly inspired guest here. Yeah. I extend our best wishes to your wife and your children. Okay. Our doors are open to you at all times. Thank you so much. I'm going to say your entire name. High Chief Prince, Dr. Wilton McDonald. Small c.
And I, just for your audience, say that it is High Chief Prince Dr. Wilton George Adobowale Ekpo McDonald II.
Oh, please, let me, forgive me. I'm going to engage in some frivolity for that, because what you've just been able to do is demonstrate that we should applaud you. Could you have your name, the African names embedded? Thank you very much for that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Praise be. Oh, yes. Praise be indeed. Praise be. Yeah, that was truly an inspired dialogue with Dr. Wilton McDonald II. And of course, the High Priest Prince, and of course, Chief of Aagba. It is a truly interesting person to speak to, and I hope we did him justice. There's a long dialogue we had. It was edited, but the essence of his key messages are clear, verifiable, I might add, verifiable as well. But we want to encourage inquiries by you, the audience. We would encourage the audience to make those inquiries. Okay. Thank you for being with us all this time. But before you go, please, if you haven't left a message, leave a message or responded, or you want to give us a thumbs up or like, don't forget to press the bell icon so that you're aware of our future upload. We will increase frequency very soon. But we want to spend the closing minutes and stay with us on an issue of real concern to us all. And that's our health and well-being. Yes, these lifestyle messages are so crucial, absolutely crucial. Far too many members of the communities are passing way before their time. And with conditions which are avoidable, absolutely avoidable. And I'm very conscious of those in the medical profession who speak out on these issues. And it's us, the patients, as it were, the wider population. We're the ones that have got to listen and hear their wise words. People who have dedicated their entire life to our health and well-being. Okay. And I'm struck by a speech given by Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. It is a speech that I'm obliged to play only a few minutes of, but it's striking. It gets to the heart of our health and well-being, particularly Africans from the Caribbean. He quotes some quite shocking statistics we must hear and ultimately respond to. Protect the next generation from these maladies. Listen to the words of Professor Hilary Beckles.
We have 60% of the black people in the Caribbean over the age of 60 have hypertension or diabetes, or both. Now, if you take the single criterion of chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, if you take that simple criterion, the black people in the Caribbean are the unhealthiest people on the planet. And you have to understand that. On the one hand, we are watching Usain Bolt and we're watching the Caribbean athletes. We're watching the Caribbean with an image of being the most athletic people on the planet. But beneath that image of these super sportsmen and women is the hard reality that we are now the sickest people on the planet. In every black family in the Caribbean, hypertension and diabetes is endemic and congenital. In my family, almost everybody over 60 has hypertension and diabetes.
A devastating statistic, a devastating and awesome admission by Professor Hilary Beckles. Every member of his family has either diabetes or high blood pressure, hypertension. Yeah, it is endemic across the islands of the Caribbean. Okay, and we're not discussing it. We're not raging about this. That this is wrong. It should not be happening. We must continue to advocate against these diseases. By doing so, we change and modify our behavior. Mm-hmm. Our love affair with sugar needs to be contested with. Yep. Mm-hmm. Our love affair with cholesterol needs to be looked at, you know. And despite the super athletes in the Caribbean, the sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise, the propensity for obesity, fatness across the Caribbean, and particularly affecting our women. These are devastating statistics quoted by Professor Hilary Beckles. Okay. So if in doubt, go to the source of the information, question him further. Our role here on the Demotivatorshow is to bring to your attention the issues of real concern to the community, not those which are dictated to you by the big international media, and to remind us it is within our gifts, it's within our power for change. We are the change makers. It's our constant decision, those decisions we consciously make to improve our personal condition, in turn, our family's conditions, our network conditions. And together we can transform the world. So what I'm heartened by is the number of you who've heard these messages, understood their importance, and responded positively to those messages. We want to thank you, each and every one of you, because you have taken the step to have a different health outcome. Absolutely critical that you take those steps and encourage others to do so as well. Because those statistics quoted by Professor Hilary Beckles were devastating. Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine if that was a global phenomenon? Okay. Oh my gosh, governments around the world will be holding regular conferences to determine how best to address the issue head on. I don't see this happening across the Caribbean or Africa and so on. We must and we should respond. So those of you who've heard these messages, understood their importance, and have come together in common aim and common purpose, we thank you. I want to quote the words of another professor, Professor Kevin Fenton, who is indeed the public health director for here London and some of our home counties, an enormous area of population density. Okay. And he provides some common sense advice that I play on a daily basis. I play on a daily basis to remind myself of what I need to do in order to maintain good health and fitness. Here are the words of Professor Kevin Fenton, Public Health Director for London here in Britain. Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. There you are, common sense advice by Professor Kevin Fenton, Public Health Director for London and the home counties here in Britain. Common sense advice I play on a daily basis to remind myself, even me, I need that constant reminder what I should do in order to maintain good health and well-being. But I'm heartened by the number of you who heard these messages, responded, and have come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding if we work together, exercise together, we're more likely to stay healthier together. In doing so, we transform our health prospects together. Working together is the only way forward. Yes, you can, of course, do it alone, go really fast. But if you want to go far, if you want to have sustained growth, we do it together. We're all interdependent. Yes, we're all interdependent. So I want to watch you. I want to watch you exercise. There are a group of people here in South London who've come together, common aim and common purpose. They call themselves Countdown. They're one of many that have sprung up since we have given out these lifestyle messages right across London, across the southeast of England, across the major cities of Britain and Europe. Africans and others have come together in common aim and common purpose, for they recognize we exercise and think of our health together. We're more likely to grow together. Watch them come together and watch them exercise together because they pooled their resources. This could be you. That's right, they've come together in common aim and common purpose. Recognize if they exercise together, they're more likely to stay healthier together. And together, we will make the difference. And you can see, I'll pause that there. Yes, I know you like it. I know you like it. They have come together, common aim and common purpose. They've demonstrated regardless of the ethnicity, whether you're from South Africa or from Nigeria, you're from Ghana or from Tanzania, you're from Jamaica or from Nigeria, they've come together, common aim and common purpose, understanding. If we collaborate, work together, we can stay healthier together. It's a crucial message. It's a crucial mission that we all must engage in. And I can trust you, the benefits are enormous. They're far greater than the effort you put into it. Together, you can and will make the difference. And look, if you're in London and you want to meet that group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose and now exercise together, let me put their details up on the screen just to help you along the way. There you are. They call themselves Countdown. They meet every Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. They meet at 12 Tatum Street, Tatum Street, that's London. S for sugar, E17, 1T for Togo, N for Nigeria. There you are. That's where they meet. Their email address, I'll just quote their email address for you. It's countdown0405@gmail.com. And telephone number, if you're in the UK, it's 07960803588. I repeat, 07960803588. I commend the work of Countdown and similar organizations that have evolved since we've started our lifestyle messaging campaign of people come together in common aim and common purpose, understood. If we work together, we're more likely to be more successful together. Praise be, eh? Praise be. All righty. I think that's that's enough for one episode of the Demotivatorshow. But don't forget, don't leave without leaving a message or at least acknowledging that you watched the content and we'd like to think it met with your satisfaction. And look, we welcome your comments. Leave a comment in the chat area of this podcast. And thank you for your time. Okay, and we will continue. We promise we will continue to devote and provide good quality information with guests who are inspired to understand the importance of their messages. But again, before I leave, a special thank you to the Aldreds for their 52 years of marriage is to be admired, to be acknowledged. Okay, that's what we want to see. We need more men and women come together in marriage, in long-term relationship, devoted relationships, so that we don't have this demographic crisis we're experiencing right now. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to pass on links of this podcast to your families, your friends, your wider network. Until the next time, I remain the motivator.
A journey from Africa to Scotland to found the clan McDonald's. A journey of faith across the sea and prove our legacy that lives on.
European societies, especially enslaver societies such as Britain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, and Spain, faced a major contradiction at the center of Enlightenment culture. European intellectuals increasingly proclaimed liberty, reason and universal human rights, while European nations simultaneously expanded colonial rule and participated heavily in African enslavement. By the end of the 18th century, European artists began exposing another side of the supposed age of reason: violence, superstition, oppression and human irrationality. They sought historic romanticism, which challenged the idea that reason alone could explain human existence. During the so-called Enlightenment era, European nations repeatedly committed crimes against humanity, committed genocide against hundreds of civilizations across the world, including the African continent, South, Central and North America, the Indian subcontinent and Australasia. Likely a billion lives lost. The Catholic Church, headquartered in the Vatican, sanctified the European monarchs, aristocrat, the merchant class and commoners while earning great wealth from human misery. Pope Leo XIV, in his recent encyclical or public statement, asked the we, pardon the Catholic Church for its past transgressions.
Welcome to Burkina Faso, the land of the upright peoples. This trip is the official program of the High Council of Burkinabés in Great Britain. The Demotivatorshow are backers and cultural partners. You are all most welcome. This trip to Burkina Faso will be good for you, good for your family, good for our futures. Meet people who will meet you with open arms and respect. The world is invited that on 17th of March to the 1st of April, the risings of the rising spirit, vast golden landscapes that touch the soul, a culture woven with warmth, and a people whose spirit shines bright. Come, feel the warmth. Come, discover the rising spirit. Burkina Faso is a holiday destination, is a safe investment opportunity. Gozaso, a great place to build your family. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. It's safe. Visit. Come. It's safe. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. Visit. It's safe. Come. It's safe. People with a strong culture and tradition. It's peaceful, a great place to live. It's peaceful, a great place to have your family. It's peaceful, it is safe. Breaking the chains of colonial control, we will define our identity. We will define our nations. We will define our future. Before we continue, we ask for your support. If you believe in the mission of the Demotivatorshow to inform, inspire, educate and empower the African diaspora and our friends around the world, please take a moment to like this video. Every like helps more people discover these important conversations. Leave a comment below. We read your views, your experiences and your suggestions, and they often help shape our future programs. If you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel. We are building a growing community of people committed to truth, self-determination, Pan-African progress and a positive change. Please share this video with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your social media networks, and share could be the reason someone discovers information that changes their perspective forever. And finally, press the bell icon and select all notifications so you never miss an interview, analysis, a discussion, or a special broadcast. Thank you for your continued support. Together, we inform, inspire, and build a brighter future. Welcome to Demotivatorshow.